Page and Brin refused to follow the easy path. They simply couldn't stomach the idea of Google turning into just another cluttered portal.
Larry and Sergey and the other Googlers had a great allergic reaction to websites that were just plastered with banner ads and flashing gizmos and pop-ups and all sorts of other things that weren't of great benefit to the user. And they wanted to make sure that they left people with a great experience, but also with advertisements that made sense to people.
Page and Brin weren't against advertising per se. They just wanted it in a more user-friendly, webified form. But they couldn't think of what that would be. Time and money were running out, however, so in the most controversial move of their young company's life, they found the solution to their problem in true Silicon Valley style. They copied it from somebody else. That someone else was this man, Bill Gross. Based down in Los Angeles, Gross had no connection to Google. He ran a small company called Idea Lab, a self-styled incubator of innovative notions and the startups that hatched them. It was Gross who cracked the riddle of internet advertising and, in a roundabout way, provided Google with its salvation.
I go through life looking around at problems that I see and looking for ways to solve them, whether they're life problems like traffic or health problems or technology problems, but I always like to look at everything and say, how could this be better? And try especially to see if there's a way that I can use technology to solve that.
Over the course of his career, Gross has turned his hand to everything from robots to solar panels. But back in the late 1990s, his obsession was web advertising.
When I saw this particular problem at this company, where our companies were looking for ways to advertise more effectively, and I was sort of saying to myself, how can we make this better? What's wrong with the way we're buying the advertising right now? What would we like it to be?
In hindsight, Gross's insight, like Page's count the links, was brilliantly simple. It started with the realization that when someone types in a search query, they're not just telling the world what they're interested in, they're often telling the world what they're interested in buying.
So if I type in the words Bob, Dylan, I'm saying at a minimum that I'm curious about him. Maybe I even want to buy his new album. Now take that information and all the other musicians' names I've ever typed into Google, and suddenly you have a detailed picture of me as a music fan, a picture of no small value for the music business. And this, in essence, is what Bill Gross saw, and saw before anyone else, that a search engine could be, and probably would be, the world's most powerful and efficient market research tool.
In tech jargon, the terms you type into a search engine are called keywords, and Gross realized that they could be worth a fortune.
Keywords are the future of the business. Keywords were so valuable because when a person types in a keyword to a search engine, they are giving you a huge window into the mind of their intent at that moment. You get them to type a few words, that's insanely valuable.
Gross believed that he could sell keywords to advertisers. BMW, for instance, would pay good money to ensure that every time someone typed the word car into a search engine, a link to the BMW site appeared up high in the search results. But even among Gross's own people, the idea of paying for placement seemed crass, objectionable.
And that was very distasteful to some people in this meeting. There were some people who were rolling their eyes at that idea. They're saying, no way you could get away with that. I said, come on, it's just like the Yellow Pages. Think about that. Think how useful Yellow Pages are. And I left the meeting and I ran back to my office and I grabbed the Yellow Pages. I brought it back in, I plopped it down, I opened it up. I said, look at this. Look how useful this is. You look for something in here, these are paid ads. And this is what the customer wants when they're searching for a plumber. Why wouldn't we do that in a search engine? Why wouldn't that be helpful? It turned out to be the big idea that search could be like Yellow Pages.
Gross ultimately persuaded the skeptics at his company, and in 1998, he launched a site based on keywords and sponsored links that would eventually be known as Overture. It was an instant success.
The CEO of the company came up to me and said, we are handling billions of microtransactions. We are bigger than the phone company even in the number of transactions we're handling. And that was really incredible. And then I realized, this really is a big thing.
What Gross didn't know was that back in Silicon Valley, his moves were being watched, and that Google would come to see his idea as the solution to its business model quandary.
Larry and Sergey happened on a little site that was growing quite nicely with sponsored listings called Overture. And Larry in particular, I think, felt that this offered a roadmap for a business that Google might be able to get into.
The Google boys arranged to meet Bill Gross,
and then to meet him again and again. Much of business history is determined by such meetings between aspiring titans meeting behind closed doors.
Well, I met Larry and Sergey, and we were talking to them about finding some way to blend the really great monetization that GoTo was having and the incredibly relevant search results that Google had. And we talked a number of times about different ways to incorporate those together.
Sometimes meetings like this end with both sides emerging arm in arm, but other times not. And that was the case with Google and Overture. What exactly transpired remains a bit of a mystery, but the outlines are clear enough. First, Larry and Sergey walked away from the talks without cutting any kind of deal. And then, shortly thereafter, Google released a service called AdWords that was uncannily similar to Overture's. Sound suspicious? You bet it does.
Gross sued Google over that similarity and the appropriation it suggested, but ultimately the two sides settled out of court. And one thing's sure, the settlement included enough money in Google stock to keep Bill Gross extremely happy.
We thought it would add value. We never thought it could have this kind of impact and reach and really make for such a valuable economic model online, but we're so thrilled that it has.
Google would tweak Gross's original idea in important ways. Most crucially, it would separate the ads from the so-called organic search results. Take a look at the Google page that we're all so familiar with by now. Here's the white box where you type in your query. Here are the untainted results generated by the Google Relevance algorithm. And then here at the top and to the right are the ads, the blue-colored sponsored links that companies have paid for. And it's from these that Google has derived billions in profits over the past few years.
It was clear that it was a better user experience than arriving at a website that looked as if it was 42nd Street or Times Square at 2 o'clock in the morning. And they thought that would be better for advertisers as well because it would bring advertisers more business. And that was a wonderful, shrewd, stunning, incredible insight at the beginning of 2000.
What Google had done wasn't merely to chart a path towards its own commercial success. It had laid the foundations for the astronomical takeoff of internet advertising writ large. Suddenly, with AdWords and similar services from Microsoft and Yahoo, anyone who wanted to hawk their goods online, from Toyota and Citibank to a shepherd in the Ural Mountains peddling goatskin rugs, had at their disposal a measurably effective means of reaching a global marketplace. What we now understand is the internet economy was being born,